The sound of the slap didn't just echo through the courtroom, it shattered the careers of everyone standing on the wrong side of the truth. One moment, Officer Clint Barrett was the arrogant face of untouchable authority, towering over MP Gabrielle Stone with a sneer that had terrified suspects for decades. He thought his badge gave him the right to silence a woman powerful enough to expose his precinct's darkest secrets. He made a fatal mistake. He raised his hand, but he forgot that before Gabrielle Stone was a politician, she was a soldier. Watch closely, because what happens in the next 3 seconds is the most satisfying instance of instant karma you will ever see. The air inside Courtroom 4B of the High Court was stale, recycled, and thick with the scent of floor wax and anxious perspiration. It was the kind of atmosphere where careers came to die, and on this humid Tuesday in October, the career on the chopping block belonged to the entire narcotics division of the Metro Police Force. Sitting in the front row of the public gallery, back straight as a steel rod, was Member of Parliament Gabrielle Stone. She didn't need to be there. Most MPs would have distanced themselves from a scandal this volatile, a corruption case involving 3 senior detectives accused of planting evidence. But Gabrielle wasn't most politicians. She had grown up in the very district these officers had terrorized, and she had campaigned on a platform of cleaning the house. She adjusted the cuffs of her navy blazer, her eyes fixed on the witness stand. The man currently testifying was a terrified informant named Leo Perkins. He was sweating profusely, his eyes darting toward the heavy oak doors where the bailiffs stood. One bailiff, in particular, seemed to suck the oxygen out of the room. Officer Clint Barrett. Barrett wasn't technically on trial, but he was the physical embodiment of the department's old guard. Standing 6'4" with a buzz cut and a neck as thick as a tree stump, he stood with his arms crossed over his chest, his gaze boring into the back of the witness's head. He was supposed to be there for security, to maintain order. Instead, he was there to intimidate. Gabrielle had filed 3 separate complaints about Barrett's presence in the courtroom over the last week. The presiding judge, Justice Alistair Crowe, a man known for his leniency toward law enforcement, had dismissed them all as procedural paranoia. Mr. Perkins, the defense attorney, a sharp-tongued woman named Lydia Cross, asked, "Did you or did you not see Detective Miller place the bag in the vehicle?" Leo Perkins swallowed hard. He looked at the jury, then at the judge, and finally, his eyes locked with Officer Barrett's. Barrett didn't move. He didn't have to. He just shifted his weight slightly, his hand brushing near his belt, a subtle, practiced movement that screamed a warning. I don't recall," Leo stammered, his voice barely a whisper. A murmur of frustration rippled through the gallery. Gabrielle clenched her jaw. They were losing. The intimidation tactics were working in plain sight, and the system was too blind or too complicit to stop it. Gabrielle stood up. It was a breach of protocol, but she couldn't sit still while justice was being strangled. She moved toward the exit, needing air, needing to make a call to the Attorney General. As she reached the aisle, the heavy oak doors swung open, and the court went into recess. "Court is in recess for 15 minutes, Justice Crowe announced, banging his gavel with a dull thud. The room erupted into the noise of shuffling papers and low conversations. Gabrielle didn't leave immediately. She stood near the railing, watching Barrett. He was laughing now, high-fiving one of the defense lawyers. The arrogance radiated off him like heat from a furnace. He knew they had gotten to the witness. He knew they were winning. Gabrielle checked her phone. She had a text from her aide, Sarah. "The press is outside. They want a statement on the Perkins testimony." She typed back, "Not yet." As she turned to leave, her path was blocked. Officer Barrett had moved from his post and was now standing directly in front of the swinging gate that separated the gallery from the well of the court. He wasn't looking at the prisoners. He was looking directly at her. "Going somewhere, MP Stone?" Barrett asked. His voice was a low rumble, mockingly polite. "Excuse me, officer," Gabrielle said, her voice cool and detached. "I need to pass." "Trial's not over," Barrett said, leaning against the gate, effectively sealing the exit. "Figure you'd want to stay and watch your witch hunt fall apart." Gabrielle looked him in the eye. She had faced down warlords in conflict zones during her time in the Royal Medical Corps. A corrupt bailiff with an ego problem didn't frighten her. "Step aside, Officer Barrett. You are obstructing an elected official." "I'm securing the court," he sneered, crossing his arms again. The leather of his belt creaked. "Just doing my job. Something you politicians wouldn't know much about." The courtroom was emptying, but a few people lingered. Stenographers, a couple of junior clerks, and the terrified witness, Leo Perkins, who was being handcuffed by another officer to be taken back to holding. "Your job is to ensure safety, not to intimidate witnesses and harass observers," Gabrielle said, stepping closer. She lowered her voice so only he could hear. "And mark my words, Barrett, when the audit comes through next month, your pension is going to be the first casualty." The smile vanished from Barrett's face. His eyes narrowed into slits. The mention of his pension struck a nerve. He stepped forward, invading her personal space, using his height to loom over her. "You listen to me, you little officer!" Justice Crow's voice rang out from the bench, though he sounded more bored than concerned. "Let her through." Barrett didn't move immediately. He held Gabrielle's gaze for a long, uncomfortable second, trying to make her flinch. She didn't blink. Finally, with a scoff of disgust, he unlatched the gate and swung it open, but he did it violently. The heavy wood swung fast, nearly clipping Gabrielle's hip. She sidestepped it gracefully, brushed past him, and walked out into the corridor. Her heart was pounding, not from fear, but from a cold, simmering rage. This wasn't just about a trial anymore. This was personal. But she didn't know that inside the courtroom, Barrett was already planning his last move. He turned to his partner, a rookie named Officer Collins. "Watch the door," Barrett muttered. "I need to have a private chat with the MP about respect." "Clint, don't," Collins warned nervously. "She's an MP. There are cameras everywhere." "Not in the service corridor," Barrett grinned, a dark, predatory expression. "She thinks she can threaten my money? I'm going to teach her how things work in my city." The service corridor behind the main courtrooms was a relic of the Victorian era. Narrow, dimly lit, and lined with pipes that hissed with steam. It was a shortcut to the judges' chambers and the private exit for high-profile officials. Gabrielle used it to avoid the media circus at the front steps while she collected her thoughts. She was typing a message to the chief prosecutor, demanding a review of the courtroom security footage, when she heard the heavy door behind her click shut. The lock engaged with a metallic snap. Gabrielle stopped. She didn't turn around immediately. She listened. Heavy footsteps echoed on the concrete floor. Slow. Deliberate. The stride of a man who owned the ground he walked on. She slipped her phone into her blazer pocket, ensuring the voice recorder app she had triggered in the courtroom was still running. She turned slowly. Clint Barrett was standing 20 feet away. He had removed his hat, holding it in his hand. The fluorescent light flickered above him, casting long, jagged shadows across his face. "You're lost, officer," Gabrielle said, her voice steady. "No," Barrett said, walking closer. "I'm exactly where I need to be. You and I have unfinished business." "I have no business with you, Barrett. Open that door." You think because you wear a suit and sit in Parliament, you can come into my house and threaten my men?" Barrett stopped 5 feet from her. The smell of stale coffee and aggression wafted off him. "We run this city, not you, not your voters." "You don't run anything," Gabrielle replied, her posture shifting subtly. She widened her stance, her weight balanced. It was a reflex from years of training, muscle memory kicking in. "You're a bully with a badge, and your time is running out. The Perkins testimony was compromised. I saw you signaling him." Barrett laughed, a harsh, barking sound. "Who's going to believe that? You? The angry woman playing the race card?" "The cameras," Gabrielle pointed to the ceiling. Barrett smirked and pointed to the wall. "Maintenance scheduled for today. Cameras are off in this hallway. Just you and me, Stone." This was the trap. He had picked this spot specifically. He wanted to scare her, to rough her up just enough to send a message, confident that without video, it would be his word against hers. And in this city, a cop's word was gold. "You're making a mistake, Clint." She used his first name, stripping him of his title. "Back off." "Or what?" Barrett sneered. He took another step, entering her striking range. "You gonna legislate me to death?" He reached out, his heavy hand grabbing her shoulder, his fingers digging into the fabric of her blazer, pinching the skin beneath. "You're going to go back out there," he hissed, his face inches from hers. "And you're going to tell the press you were wrong. You're going to apologize to the department." Gabrielle looked at his hand on her shoulder. "Remove your hand. Now. Make me." She didn't struggle. She didn't scream. She simply brought her left hand up and knocked his arm away with a sharp, precise chop to the radial nerve. Barrett yelled in surprise, snatching his hand back. The pain was immediate, like an electric shock, but shock quickly turned to blind fury. His face turned a deep shade of crimson,